Good
Hey!
morning. Hello. Hello.
Morning,
Hello.
morning, morning. Dawn, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I missed you the week before, but this week I am fabulous. No, that was the week before that, wasn't it?
It was the week. We've been back
I'm
together
getting
since.
so confused.
It's just how time flies when you're having fun, you see. It
I
seems like
know.
forever when we're apart.
I know. Oh, don't.
Oh.
I'm emotional.
And that's the sorry state of affairs today as I sit here and say, I'm not going to be with you next week.
I know. Someone is leaving me. They don't care anymore, and they decided just to bugger off to Iceland.
I would ideally love to broadcast and join you from Iceland. I really, really would. Unfortunately, I don't know what the signal is going to be like. I can't carry all this kit with me, although I could try in my phone, but you know how I am with technology these days. But it would be really, really nice to do a quick blast from Iceland with the Northern Lights behind me, wouldn't it?
Don't even mention the Northern Lights to me. You know how jealous I am of you.
I know. I'm sorry, I can't help it. But yeah, we're gonna go and see the Northern Lights. We're gonna go whale watching and take a wander around the Golden Circle and try and find some fairies. No comments, please.
I wasn't. You know what? I was going to be so well behaved.
You know me. I don't care. But it's good to be back with you. And
you too, my darling.
I hear Alison's progress continues.
Yeah. Let's please thank you to everybody for all your healing you've been sending, Alison, and the power of thought and healing. It's incredible what it can do. So let's never underestimate that. So let's keep sending that for her, please.
Indeed.
And obviously our condolences with the royal family.
Yes, absolutely.
With her Majesty passed, and it's a time to think of all the how selflessly she gave up her life, her freedom.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we as many people know, I run a divine service on a Thursday night here at Liverpool where I live, and it got to 6:30 and the announcement was officially made, and I'm standing there thinking, what do I do now? And it was important to continue to give something for people to come together with, because people don't really know what they're doing when shock and grief hits. You go into this autopilot zombie-like state. I remember it plainly myself, but as everybody would, you just KBO, as her first prime minister would say. And it was important for some continuity whilst being reverent and respectful of the situation. And we had more people than usual turn up, and I know a church that I was speaking to, the guy who runs it 4 miles down the road in Ely, they also operate on a Thursday night. They ran out of chairs, because people wanted to come together to do something.
Yeah, you just feel that need to be together, don't you?
Absolutely.
It's kind of like your head of state, the person in power, the person you've grown up with, that person being there, haven't you, all this time?
Yeah.
And they're a stalwart in your life, aren't they? Yeah. And then it's, they're gone. What happens next? What happens now? And it is quite a shock for us all, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I read a statistic that only 6% of the living population of this planet have ever known a king beside Charles before the Queen. So 94% of the world have grown up with just Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on the throne of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and
she's gone. She's gone. Yeah. She's gone to a magnificent place.
I have to admit, I've been reading, repeatedly shared so many times, wonderful poem about how she's ascended to the higher realms and where everybody gets to wear a crown. And I just thought it was so beautiful. It was even read out in Parliament by one of the MPs. So, it's bringing people together with words and with deeds, and just as she would have had. at it. But I do know what she would like to do every single time, and that's say hello to everyone.
Say hello to everyone. Absolutely, absolutely. So let's give the royal wave. Hello.
Let's give the royal wave and say hello to Mick Haywood. Hello.
Hello,
Welcome
Mick
to
Haywood.
you.
Lovely smiley faces. Welcome, Mick. Kathleen Boyle. Wow, she's put. Wow. Hello.
Good morning,
you, darling.
Samantha Angela Wright. Good morning, my darling. And good to see Hannah watching with you as well, of course.
Yes. Oh, Rose Dennis. Hope Alison is on the mend. As far as I'm aware, she is getting there. I haven't spoken to her recently, but she is getting there. As far as I'm aware, let's just keep praying. Keep praying. That's all we can do is keep praying. Bless her soul.
Diane Burston, good morning, and I so do hope I have a wonderful time in Iceland too.
Yes,
definitely yes.
Melanie, I thought it said melanin then. I was like, oh, bright sunshine, melanin, that's just what we need. Melanie Whelan, hello, my love. Hi, everyone. Lovely heart, thank you.
Joanne Hills with the rainbow, the prayers and the stars. Good morning to you.
Kelly Rocket, yay, we love that name. Hiya, Peps. Hiya, Peeps. Hiya, I can't read. That's hiya, Pepsi.
I don't know where you get that idea from. Dominique, good morning. Welcome.
Izzy Ryan, good morning, Richard, Dawn and Nick. Lots of hearts. Thank you very much. And a little fairy. Lovely.
We've had that conversation. Keith Bernard Abbott, good morning. Hope you're all well and thriving. We hope you are well and thriving too.
Lovely. Starlight. Hello, everyone. Hello, Starlight. Yeah, you could hear it, couldn't you? Mum!
Hazel Barrett, good morning. Welcome. Did you say mum?
That's my mum.
Hello, mum. I'm sure we'll get the chance to reverse the roles at some point. She's probably about. But good morning, mum.
Right. So, to anyone we haven't had to say hello to yet, hello to you. Now, we have a very special guest this morning who's come in for us last minute. And his name is, you know who he is, Paul Sizell. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Dawn. Morning, Nick.
Morning.
Thank you very much for inviting me last minute.
Thank you so much for coming on the show last minute.
No problem at all.
Digging us out.
As the old saying goes, lastminute.co.uk.com.org./ thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it saved me washing my floors anyway.
Oh, well, you should be grateful to us then. Now,
symbiosis of relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Sizell, as you know, is a very well-known medium, but he also has his own paranormal show, don't you, Paul?
Well, I don't have the paranormal show anymore.
Okay.
So during the lockdown, kind of just because we couldn't do anything, Tony Ferguson and myself started doing these live feeds, and then we kind of created this show that wasn't actually meant to be created. It just happened. So through the lockdown for a couple of years, that we went on that kind of journey. So now, obviously the pandemic is kind of behind us. Then we've let that go and moved on and kind of got back out there and started investigating again.
Oh, wonderful. So what got you into your mediumship in the first place? How did that start for you?
Well, it was something that was always there, Dawn, from birth. Mum said that the moment she gave birth to me, she brought me home and, she said that then all this weird and wonderful stuff started happening in the house where it had been completely quiet prior to that. So it's kind of been there since birth, really. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. So there was always a gift there, natural gift there. And you've just honed it over the years. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I see that you was obviously working Thursday night, but where was your last investigation and how did it go?
Well, funny enough, the last one was only on Saturday evening. Again, that was a little bit last minute. Whereas I was invited to...
All last minute, Sizell.
Yeah, exactly. Where I was invited to join again, this is with Tony Ferguson, and we was in the tea rooms in Havant.
Oh, lovely.
So for those of you that know it, it's 1940s authentic tea rooms where everybody goes to, has tea, cake, that kind of thing, a very authentic 1940s style. And then that night we locked the place down, we had it to ourselves, and we did a mini investigation in there.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
And did you get a lot of paranormal stuff happening?
Yeah, we had quite a bit of activity. What tends to happen a lot is that this is why it's always good to record everything that you do and have it on camera and document it in that way, because you will stand there, you will call out, and you will go, nothing's happening. Oh, this is pretty boring. You'll go back and look at the footage, and the footage will show a lot more than you actually saw, in the pitch black with your eyes, kind of thing. So
absolutely. Which leads us quite nicely to our topic, doesn't it, Nick?
Yes, it does. We were having a chat, I would say over the weekend, but more accurately yesterday. Let's be honest about these things. We were having a chat yesterday, and your suggestion of the topic, it triggered a few thoughts in my mind about certain things that I've heard. They may be urban legends, they may be not so true, but I'm sure there will be people watching who've heard them. And of course, people will have had their own experiences too. As I have had, even meeting my guide for the first time. These I call them the weird and wonderful, but to us they're not weird anymore. We kind of, there is an element of getting used to it without losing the sense of wonder about it, which I think is
exactly
really quite wonderful. And I know, obviously, Dawn, you've had many experiences yourself. Paul, you will have done. And I'm sure the people will have at home. So whilst you are liking and sharing and subscribing to SPtv, you can also share in the chat your experiences that Paul, Dawn and myself may comment upon and have a talk about, which would be, I think, really quite interesting.
It'll be really fun. It'll be really fun to do. So any questions you have, any sort of stories you've got, and I know the three of us will have plenty to share.
Oh yeah.
So but please, like Nick says, please like and share, because everything here, remember, everything is completely free on SPtv.
The best things in life are free. And actually, you can tell the oddness of that. The next line is, you can tell it to the birds and the bees. And when you talk about the wondrous mysteries of the universe, there is actually a ceremony that took place over the weekend where they had to tell the bees that the Queen had passed.
Is that because of the Queen Bee?
Basically, it's a time-honoured tradition that you must say your master has, your mistress has died, your new master will look after you. It was a superstition that was obviously led by some incident happening perhaps multiple times, where if you don't tell the bees that the person who looks after them has passed away, they'll sod off.
Oh my god!
Or perhaps even pass away. And so it was and see, I'm not making it up because Nick saw it. But it is these really little weird traditions that we have that are steeped in either tradition or superstition.
Do you know, I love that stuff though.
Yeah. And the point is that all superstitions are based around some form of paranormal incident that has led to this being perceived by people that, oh well, if we don't do something about it, it might happen again.
Absolutely.
There's the obvious ones, like if you walk under a ladder, it's unlucky, because you might get hammered on your head if you don't do it anymore. But when it comes to things like the bees, and these things were established when people did not realize just how important bees actually are. Exactly. Without the bees, we have no life. Yeah, we are done for. So I thought it was quite a sweet and quite intimate tradition, but it's also steeped in the paranormal, really, because they're protecting the situation because someone's passed the spirit.
Yeah.
And there is many tales about the behavior of bees when people pass.
Yes.
And people have had this paranormal experience, and that's what led to these superstitions. So whilst I'm not an extremely superstitious person myself, believe it or not, I do bear a certain kind of cautious reverence to them because they will have been based in something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every single little fable, every single little bit of superstition has some kind of crux of truth in it. It has to, for where did it start in the first place?
Yes. And Chrissy Wheatley, that was the other thing as well.
Yes.
They had to tell the bees because they would stop producing honey. They would either sod off, stop producing honey, or die themselves. So
beautiful.
I
love stuff like this.
Absolutely. And nursery rhymes are quite a macabre thing, and yet
they are.
Keith, you're right. Absolutely.
Yes, they absolutely are. It's only as I've got older that I've realised I've kind of sung the song and gone, whoa.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paul, you've obviously gone far and wide to do your investigations. Are there any superstitions or nursery rhymes that have influenced the location that you've been to?
Probably one of the most infamous would be Bran's castle in Transylvania. So Count Dracula's castle, more commonly.
Wow.
And obviously we've all heard of the legend of Count Dracula, this mysterious being that can metamorphosize himself into a bat, or being some kind of blood-sucking creature of the night kind of thing. And so obviously in the Western Hemisphere, that legend is a very strong legend, and we all know about it. Whereas actually if you go over to Romania, they actually hadn't heard of the legend. They knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
That makes us look really stupid. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and if you actually go to Transylvania yourself, it's not quite as they predict in kind of like the movies, where it's kind of perched right up on this high peak. Yes, you are going up into the Transylvanian mountains. It's very picturesque. It's very stunning. The night I went to investigate, we had a massive thunderstorm, so you couldn't have asked for anything better.
Wow.
But actually kind of I had a little bit of time to spare, so I spent a bit of time in the town itself, and talking to some of the locals. And if you go around the craft stalls, what they have is these masks very similar to our Halloween masks.
Right.
And I was asking one of the locals, what are they? They're carved out of wood. Now, they actually believe in earth spirits, and they believe that that there are spirits that pass through the forest, and in order to protect themselves from these more malevolent spirits that could do damage to the person, the home, the farm, this kind of thing, in a very similar way to how we going, back more than 2,000 years ago would have celebrated the original Halloween as it was in its true form, Samhain, I think it's pronounced. But they would have the same thing where they would have the mask on, that would be quite grotesque, to prevent the spirit from trying to possess the body in some way, or trying to do some kind of damage. And that's what they believe in more than actually Count Dracula.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's no Count Dracula gift shop at the top of the mountain then? I'm disappointed.
So it's not like in Whitby, where there is a whole Dracula experience because he apparently washed up on the shores of Yorkshire.
Oh.
I mean, the medieval castle. The castle is spectacular. The views. Yes, it does have bats, and it has hundreds of them, but it's more of a museum. And I'll be honest with you, whilst it was an experience of a lifetime, I personally didn't feel any
paranormal
kind of you know, disturbance there, or anything that I could really kind of get hold of. And in fact, our guide was telling us that there are castles in Romania that are much more haunted than that one, because they have actually seen some form of trauma in the way of battle or death on the ground. So whereas Brown Castle hasn't.
There we go. Linda, talking of Brown Castle, Linda Brown has said that she will never wear green.
Yes, I can explain this. This is my mum's family superstition, that I'm also not allowed to wear green either. So good morning, Mum. There is a belief that wearing green inspires death, and causes death. Now, I never believed that was a very popular.
The heart chakra colour is
I know, exactly. And so but it turned out that one of my relatives wore green, and then a relative passed. And because there are some that believe that, then it must be true. And so I was never allowed to consider joining the army because I'd have to wear green. Well, I'm glad of that, really, because I'm much happier carrying
no
vegetables
for you then.
Weapon. So no, I'm not a big fan anyway. Can you not tell by the double chin that's getting worse and worse? But yeah, so it is. But
that's interesting.
But they are these cool. I can't even speak today, and it's not like I can hear my voice the second time around. These traditions and these superstitions do hold great weight for those that carry them, but it just proves a point, like you were saying,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's a matter of perspective, because there's everyone talking about all these superstitions of garlic and, you know, expecting to walk around the village of the castle with, you know, garlic and crosses hanging everywhere, and they've never even blooming heard of him. It just proves a point that it's in the eye of the beholder.
Absolutely. Is that Chailey? God bless you if your name is, if I've got your name wrong, I'm so sorry. So amazing. It must have been to visit there and experience the town. I bet the lightning storm was great as well.
Yes, it was.
Adds to the ambiance.
Absolutely.
Was there anything there, Paul, that you
was there anything at all?
No, nothing. I mean, we took members of the public, so I was
wasted trip.
Medium. So we took members of the public, and members of the public felt things. Members of the team that I was with felt things. I have to admit, I didn't. It felt, you know, it felt a very calm evening. I couldn't feel anything there that I'm saying, oh yeah, you know, wow, yeah, we need to be careful of that.
And I think this is actually a really, really important point. And, you know, there are those out there that will endeavour to big up and trump up the mysteries and the legends, which gives them more power. Someone like yourself, Paul, who goes out there and goes to somewhere that is so very, very potentially an easy target for that, shows absolute genuine mediumship to say, you know, I went to this really, really allegedly speaking place, nothing, you know, and that to me matters, perhaps more than the experience itself, because it shows that genuine desire for truth, rather than, as you know, all walks of life have the same issue, I know, but we get a lot of it in our way of life, of wanting to make it look worse than it is, just for numbers, really. And I absolutely respect you, Paul, for that, because I think it is absolutely brilliant. And it's actually quite funny in a way. Went to this most supposedly nada.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Brilliant.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Starlight has asked, I'm new here and I don't know how is the show working. So we're having a chat with Paul about his experiences, and then we will be doing some mediumship later. Yeah, definitely. He's our expert of the day.
Exactly. Let me share a story with you, Paul. Very quickly, because you might have. It was about. It's only a thing. It happened about 2 weeks ago to me. I was at work. You might be able to shine some light on this. I was at work, and a co-worker, we were just chatting about his mum who passed away. He's quite a bit older than me. and we were chatting and stuff. And he, you know how you never give your mum's name, you just say, my mum did this, mum said that. You don't say the person's name. He had his back turned to me, and we'd just been chatting and laughing about lovely memories of her. And I felt this beautiful energy come from the side and come over me and sort of give this lovely and peaceful embrace over me. And I instantly knew that must be his mum. And I got the name Rosie. Sorry, I didn't get the name Rosie. So I got the name Rose. And I work in a picture framers. And we have the measurements of all the people's frames, their name, their details and everything. And that's how we keep a track. And on the table, right next to my hand, where I was working, was one of our cards that we write the people's information on. And it had Rosie, not Rose, Rosie written on it. But no other information, no phone number, no measurements of the framing, no nothing. All it had was the name Rosie. And I knew that was her writing that down. So, but the thing was, it was my handwriting. I recognized my handwriting. And I turned to my friend, I won't mention his name, and I said, was your mum's name Rose? And he knows what I do, but he's not into it, but he live and let live, you know? And he said, her name was Rose, yes, but no one ever called her Rose. Everyone always called her Rosie. And on the piece of paper it said Rosie. And I said to him, I said, let me show you a piece of paper. And I put my hand down. The paper was gone. There was no paper there whatsoever. And I said, I promise you, this and I said, I'm not crazy, I promise you. And he sort of went, he said, it's okay, don't worry. I said, no, I promise you, the paper's here. And I'm going through, and he said, don't worry about it, you know. And I said, no, and I'm getting a little bit, because I said, it must have fallen down, it can't have disappeared, you know. Anyway, got to get on with my job, customers coming in, getting with the work. And I'm still sort of adamant about it, you know. Anyway, later on, we forget about it. And he goes to get some artwork out of one of his drawers. And in the back of the drawer, he pulls out a piece of paper and he said, is this it? And it had the name Rosie on it, but it had all the customer's details. It had the phone number, it had all the measurements and everything. Exactly the same piece of paper, but I had none of that information on it, only the name. And I was like, yes. And he was cool about it, you know. He's like 20 or 30 years older than me, you know. But I was just like, so is that an apport and an asport? You know, how does that, or has she put that, how does that work?
So whenever we go, let's just say we go for a reading, is it our intention to go for a reading, or has Spirit, our loved ones, sent out that psychic impression, I want to speak to you? Yeah. And without us realizing, we're hearing that impression of, I want to speak to you. And now, if we're open enough to that message, we're following it through. Right. And that leads us to where we are going to receive the message from, or whom we're going to receive that message from. When we've got somebody who may not be wanting to hear the message, they be open to it, but may not be wanting to, because not they're skeptical, but maybe they don't want to get hurt, self-preservation, grief. You know, Spirit have to find another way to reach out. So then somebody like yourself, Dawn, they will set the circumstances up that it just happens that you just see that piece of paper. Now, it could be that on that piece of paper, all the details were on there, but your mind only needed to focus on that one word, which was Rose. Yeah. So your mind saw nothing else. Yeah. The moment you delivered the message, it disappeared from where it was, reappeared in the drawer, and then your mind saw all the other information on the piece of paper, because you had done your job. You had delivered the message. Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Paul. Awesome.
Absolutely. Honestly, a very, very current theme. Just very briefly. Has anyone at home, and have you, Paul or Dawn or Richard, Heard about a member of the royal family who had lost her husband, and she sat talking to a friend, and suddenly a rose plopped onto the chair covered in morning dew, and it was as though it apported, and it was because they was talking about the passing of her husband, and this rose plopped on. I'd be interested if anyone's ever heard that themselves as well, because that was the story of an apport. And you know, I'm sure I've heard it in this way of life. So have either of you heard of it? Has anyone at home?
I've not heard of that. If anyone at home has heard of that, please let us know.
Let's help me stop being mad in my own mind and thinking that I'm losing it.
And talking of red, we'll definitely get that. But talking of red, Jane Morton, she's put, I wore red at my first wedding, and told the same thing. I was divorced 7 years later. Jane Morton. Kathleen Dawes with Jane Morton. I celebrated my divorce better than I did as well. I was like, I'm divorced.
We all need our freedoms. It's really quite important, freedom. So yeah, I can understand why you would. Keith,
so
are the tales
I wonder if that means anything. No, because I'm not sure the name, but they wrote that they wore red, and then they were divorced 7 years later.
Oh yes, of course, the colours and the I get it. Yeah,
because your mum said about the green, didn't she?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Keith Bernard Abbott put, are the tales two-dimensional or other dimensional? Two-dimensional.
The tales. Keith, were you talking about the tales of Dracula? Because I did see that pop up briefly at that point, and we got.
Is that what he's talking about?
So are the tales?
It wasn't real, was it? It was just a story made up by Bram Stoker.
Well, then, all of these myths, as we said earlier on, it's like, folklore, where does it come from? It must stem from a truth. So we have to trace back the original truth to understand what it is that we're dealing with. So, was Bram Stoker dealing with those, let's say, those spirits that were roaming through, the forest, and it was his misinterpretation of what he was experiencing? I don't know.
Maybe.
That made him then, feel as if, he wanted to write about, this mysterious count.
Yeah.
And I have actually heard in the past of accounts of so-called, and I always put so-called fiction writers being influenced by spirit. And one of the most famous ones.
I was going to blooming say that. Thank you, Nick.
Are we going down the rabbit hole?
We certainly are. Thank you.
Sorry, darling.
I love Lewis,
we are so connected, even though I'd probably point in the wrong direction. But yeah, Lewis Carroll said, I did not write Alice in Wonderland. I saw it play out in front of me and wrote it down.
Yes.
So you often wonder, are these fiction writers tapping into the Hall of Records, the etheric realm, the Akashic Records, all of this? I personally believe likely, and then just as any other writer in history who's channeling something from spirit may add their own take on things.
So the inspiration comes from somewhere.
But the inspiration, as Paul said, comes from somewhere. Have you ever written anything, Paul, in that vein, or read anything in that vein other than our Lewis?
No, I've never kind of written anything in that way. So no, that's a bit of a hard one for me to kind of
latch onto.
Or to respond to in that way.
Do you think that it would be true though that it is plausible that these people, like for instance Lewis Carroll, were actually channeling something from spirit that they were interfering with a bit?
Or look at famous pianists, we have that all the time, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, you know, if we're looking at, you know, from writing inspiration, you know, as you was just talking there, Nick, suddenly it drew my mind back to childhood, and I'd forgotten about this, and that's why I was struggling to answer the question, and then suddenly, oh yeah, I can answer it. So at school, I was always, you know, very good at writing stories. And the teachers used to say to my mum, you know, how comes he can write these stories in so much detail? How comes he can talk about people and their lives? How comes he can know these things, you know, and then write it down? My mum said, oh, he's just got a very good imagination, and she played it down, you know, without telling the teacher that I was actually experiencing or having these experiences. Mediumistically, these were people that were coming to me, sharing their story with me, as if we're talking now, and I was able to remember it and relay it as if I was telling a story. So does it work like that? Yeah, is that how it works?
It's magic, possible, isn't it?
Yes.
Keith Bernard, he's written, yes, Tales of Dracula, but looking through oh, that's what he was saying. Yeah, but looking through dimensional. Then do you believe it's a lower dimensional Bram Stoker might have been on opium, like about like Sherlock Holmes?
Again, you know, it's so the locals believed in the earth spirits, and when we look at, I don't like to use this word, but I'm going to have to. When we look at maybe elemental magic, and we go along that line,
you're about to have to say that at some point.
It's neutral. It's all neutral until we get hold of it and then decide through our will what we're going to do with it. So, you know, the locals saw these earth spirits or these elemental spirits that roamed the forest. Again, where did they come from? Were they living in the forest, or, as you know, Keith is saying, you know, were they interdimensional beings that passed from one realm into another realm? Yeah. What was their intention? Why did they put fear onto people? You know, and as he said, so could it be that something that may have had more malevolent intent, could they have then, you know, influenced Bram Stoker's mindset, and influenced him to write that story in some way through those experiences, you know? So yeah,
like with the opium, like attracts like. I was always taught never do any kind of mediumship.
Oh, we have a pause, Dawn. She will speed up and then come back very quickly. There we go.
Hello, my friend. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying then.
Oh, now, Kerry, that's a really good question.
Kerry Farmer, what is your view on aliens? Paul.
Brilliant.
You want me to answer that one?
I'll tell you mine if you tell me.
I strongly believe that we are not the only planet in the universe that can house life. Tell you a little quick story and then I'll hand this back over to you. So I've had a very colourful life over my upbringing, which has, I won't go into any detail, but has brought me, you know, in line with senior members of the royal family over time. But one of those connections where I was along in that direction, I can't go into any detail, but so one of my former bosses was involved in an internet project very early on in the development of the internet, and so two of his business partners had come over from the States, were staying at his house. One was a declassified CIA agent. The other still worked for Lockheed in America, and he was pretty high up in that. And so obviously over dinner, the conversations came up. Well, you know, come on, are there such things as, you know, aliens, that kind of thing. So the CIA guy turned around and said, I cannot confirm nor can I deny that there is extraterrestrial life out there. What I can tell you is what does get reported as UFOs is actually what we're testing. The guy then from Lockheed, he piped up because we then, next question is, do you believe in the spirit world? He said, yes, we do. We've proved its existence, and we've already proved that, and we're going back about 20, 30 odd years, we've already proved that we know that there are 13 dimensions that exist at this present moment.
Wow.
So that's the story I always tell somebody that says to me, I don't believe in any of this, it's a load of crap, I don't, and I relate that story and I say, now, even though I can never back that story up, please carry on. Please carry on with that story. Please carry on.
Love that. Love that.
Definitely.
What do you think, Nick?
Well, I have always been a bit of a sci-fi geek.
Yeah.
I've always been so I'm always quoting various different aliens from another mind. And of course, because of that, and because of my interest in astronomy and then science, and then
sorry, I stopped you, Nick. There was a beautiful big rainbow, just going right across you. Then.
Oh wow!
Beautiful pinks and reds and green. Beautiful pinks and blues and greens. It was stunning. I just had to tell you about it.
Well, funny you should mention that because that's part of the story.
Oh,
believe it or not.
Okay, sorry about that.
Because of all of my interest, I decided to sit down one day and talk to my guide. And I just sat there and I said, right, okay, come on. Big question, Gordon. Is there such thing as aliens? And we was talking and he just said, there are no aliens. There is only one race, the human race. However, if you think about how this world has progressed, where different islands have been discovered that were not there before, and we are all alien to each other. If there are islands on this planet that we have not seen, then there will be islands of rock in the ocean of stars that are yet to be discovered. And who's to say or not that there may not be life upon them? And I just sat there and I said, you're not going to give me a straight answer. And he just looked at me, nah. And but it was that point of there is only one human race. There is only one race, the human race, which I say all the time for many reasons. But who's to say that this race that is born of the soul does not take different shapes and forms? And of course, if there is an infinite possible amount of stars out there, which is ever expanding, there's got to be something out there. And we are all spiritually part of the same race, even if we grew up in different places and learnt different languages and give names to them. So absolutely, I believe it. So I actually said, show me something. And he showed me this planet with a pink and purple atmosphere and a matching rainbow across the sky. I didn't see anybody walking about, but, I might have just been in a quiet place. Beautiful. But that's,
Beautiful. Thank you, Nick. That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. Helen Mansell, she put, when my granddad passed, I was lost, heartbroken for days. Oh, bless you. Leading up to the funeral, I kept seeing something shining on the floor carpet leading into my son's bedroom, but never picked it up. But the day of the funeral, the shining had moved to up to the bathroom. I had to step over it or pick it up, so I did. And it was a gold angel. There was no way it had fallen off something. And then a few months later, I was hoovering and I picked up something shiny again. It was a metal gold angel again. Wow. I mean, to me, that has to be comfort, doesn't it? That has to be letting you know that your granddad is very much with you and trying to, heartbreak is something you can't stop someone being heartbroken. You can't stop it. There's no magic spell to say you're no longer grieving. But there's comfort in knowing that you know, your granddad is in is home. I was going to say in a better place, but he stopped me. He said, is home. He is home.
Yeah, Paul, over to you.
Yeah, you know, as we were saying earlier on, that signs are everywhere. It's just whether we choose to see them or not.
The more we recognise them, the more signs we get.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. So somebody that is open to seeing those signs will keep seeing those signs. It's a form of synchronicity. The more you see one, it will lead you on to seeing another, and so on and so on. And you know, it's a form of guidance, a form of spiritual guidance, if you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Totally agree. So Paul, my question for you, because we're talking about our experiences, and I've had one that was my teenage years was somewhat tumultuous and emotional. I'm not going to deny that. And what I'd like to do is, from your perspective as a paranormal investigator, your take on what I experienced. So I was in a drama studio at school. This is how long ago it was. And a friend, both me and my friend Peter, we were rehearsing for a lesson that we were going to do, because we was stepping in as drama teachers as part of our work experience.
Right.
And there was always this really thick beam of light coming from underneath the door, and we saw this shadow moving past the door like you would. It was a door in a lit corridor. The whole room was painted black, and the lights were dimmed with spotlights. So it's fine. Suddenly, the shadow began to be cast as though it was in the room. So you've got a gap no more than half an inch thick underneath the door.
All blacked out.
Then all blacked out. The door was blacked out. All the floors were blacked out. But you could see this shaft of light. And this shadow began to move towards us as though it was being cast from a source within the room. So the light was passing an object or something within the room, rather than it being connected to either top or bottom. And then I perceived this being who stood there and said, I've just come to say hello, I'll see you again one day. And Peter had obviously seen this wobbly lighty thing standing in the middle of where his shadow was being cast from. I was blindsided, and he shrieked, I shrieked, we hugged, we screamed, we went outside for fresh air. It wasn't until I started developing as a medium that I saw that person again, who introduced and said, I want to be your guide and I want to help you. It turned out that because I kept quite a good diary at those times, because I used to be quite organised, that event was on the same day as the passing of the individual who invited himself to be my guide. So as an investigator, as an investigator, how do you explain, rationalise, give information about how it works, that sort of thing?
Okay, so if we're looking at it from two sides, you're in a darkened room, there is one small beam of light. Okay, as your eyes are adjusting, as with any camera, the iris will start to open to allow more light in. So as it starts to do that, this is where perhaps we need to talk to a photographer to explain this more. You know, obviously your perception is going to change. So shadows may appear to become longer or change shape in some way as the eyes are adjusting to the light and their surroundings and what they're seeing. So if we're going to explain everything away, let's look at it from that side. Yeah, if we're explaining everything away. Yeah.
Which is really important. You have to do that first.
Absolutely.
Always do that first.
However, as we know, any spiritual experience is a very personal one, and it's a very personal journey. And just because it's your experience and somebody else hasn't experienced it, it doesn't mean to say that it didn't happen and it wasn't real. So, you know, Nick, at the end of the day, it's what your perception of reality is, and did you feel that that was an experience that was meant for you, and it was real, and it happened for you? Yeah, as you said, you've already been able to trace back the point of, you know, the date of death in correlation with the communication from the guiding force. Yeah, that, you know, made their presence felt. So for you, you know, you've got a very tangible evidence there, you know, something you can hold on to that says this was very real for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like saying in anything, and, you know, I was looking at it this way, you know, there's you know, and obviously, you know, referring to me as a paranormal investigator, but obviously in the first instance, I'm a spiritual medium. That's Absolutely. What I do, but I take the mediumship into the world of the paranormal. Yeah. How I address that is actually, what I'm doing is I'm exploring the paranormal. So the paranormal is an exploration of the unknown. When you are then working with, you know, the paranormal in any kind of form, that's when I intend to use the word supernatural, because you are going into those supernatural realms, and you need to have an understanding of them. Yeah, so I think it's very important, whether you're a medium or an investigator or whoever, to try to understand and embrace both sides of the coin from the scientific perspective, as well as from the supernatural perspective. Yeah, because things can be explained away quite easily. However, also, but it's remembering these experiences are very, very personal, and they're very personal to the individual. And just because that one person experiencing it doesn't mean to say that it's not real. So lovely story, Nick. No, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And I have to agree, because actually yesterday in a workshop, I did this example. Science and reason, science and religion are like the shoes on your feet. You can travel further with both than just one.
Yes.
Faith sustains when reason says there's no other way, but we have to be reasonable. And we're always told, even St. Paul himself said, test the spirits. And we really should try and people get really grumpy with me because I always try and explain away something.
I agree completely.
It could have been that, could have been that, could have been that. Before I will say, well, it could then have been spirit. I think we should always be reasoned.
Absolutely. I think that if you can reason it first, and if you always go towards trying to reason it first, that when you have got no other reason and you come to the spiritual perspective, then that has more gravitas for the spiritual perspective, because you've gone through all of the scientific, it could be this, it could be that, it could just be the wind. Once you've gone through all that and you do get your spiritual answer, then it's even more definite, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, sometimes then we've got to look at it that you have to, whether you want to or not, you have to take a leap of blind faith. You have to. You know, I think sometimes we can spend too much time trying to explain everything away.
Yeah.
And I always look at it from this point of view. What is the point of life? You know, there we are, we're born, we go through, you know, this slog for about 80 odd years or however long down here. We go through all of these problems, whatever's hitting us. And then, you know, the physical body can no longer sustain life, so it can no longer continue in that way. And that's it. The lights are out. I just don't get the point of it. I don't get the point. I don't get the meaning behind it. So, you know, I'm a great believer that there has to be more than what we're seeing. Well, there is more than what we're seeing, but again, it's whether we believe that there's more than what we're actually experiencing in the physical sense.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, totally. Well, I mean, I think if we didn't have that leap of faith, everybody who says I'm a medium, i.e. all of us sat here today, we'd all be in mental institutions, wouldn't we?
And in fact, in the past, we either were or being hanged or ducked, you know.
Yeah.
Richard, I love you more and more
laughing.
every day.
I mean, I think it's important to understand, you know, let's just look at it from a serious point of view. You know, you've touched on a very challenging subject there, where in order to you know, because mediumship is the moment we start to call out in any form to make communication with the afterlife, it is mediumship. It doesn't mean to say you're a medium. It just means you are using mediumship to
you're being
connect.
the medium between these two places.
Exactly, absolutely. Now, this where the science comes into it, though, is that in order to reach and finally attune the mind to those places, that we've got to then attune our minds, our frequency.
Yes.
And we have to become more sensitive, more empathic. Yeah.
Definitely.
And what happens is that as we become more empathic to and more sensitive to these subtle vibrations that are out there, we can then become what we're experiencing. We become more open to maybe other people's issues and their problems, and like a sponge, we can absorb it. Now, over a period of time, what's going to happen is that is going to affect the mind, and it is going to really screw it up. So is it actually the mediumship or the communication with spirit that actually can send a person into a state of shock in that way and affect their mental well-being? Or is it actually we come under attack more from the earth plane and what's around us, and that's what causes the mental instability, in the fact that, you know, we are absorbing other people's energy, emotions, everything that they're going through, and we don't realize that we're taking it on board. Now, I mean, every 6 weeks, every month, I have a clear out. I go to somebody, I don't do it, I go to somebody else, and like, you know, she kind of opens up a valve and then, you know, clears out all the residual energy. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to keep going.
So this is where anxiety and depression comes in for a lot of mediums. Hand up.
Absolutely.
But there we are. I know you've got to leave, Paul, haven't you?
Yes. I can give you a little bit longer if you want to carry on, but I will have to leave you soon before the end of the show, unfortunately.
Let's just have a look at Dominique Smith. She says, I went in to check on my daughter while she was sleeping. To my surprise, she had one of her hands out, holding hands with someone. I asked what that was, and she said, it's Grandad in spirit comforting her. Oh.
Again, you know, remembering that how I look at it is that when we are first born up until maybe kind of round about 7, the spirit is stronger than the mental mind, and so we are more spirit. Children are more in tune. That's why when we have children in the house, we might experience more paranormal activity, or such as the story that we've just heard there, where you know, a child may be reaching out to a loved one, or they're saying that, you know, they are you know, hearing, or there's somebody in the room with them. So, you know, it's only natural that as a child we are going to be more in tune with spirit. Round about 7, we start to get, you know, life starts to condition us a little bit more to the physical world, and we start to lose the trace and the ability, unfortunately.
Definitely.
Well said. Here, totally agree.
Totally agree with you, Paul. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us, Paul.
It was my pleasure. And you know, like I say, it was obviously meant to be. So you know, it just happened that I had a few hours to spare, and not a problem. As soon as I got the message, something just felt right to come and join you guys. So thank you very much for inviting me to join you. It's wonderful to meet you both, and meeting you again for another time, Dawn, but meeting you also, Nick, for the first time, and you know, thank you very much for having me on here.
Thank you.
Very refreshing, very uplifting,
really knowledgeable. Thank you.
It's really nice to meet someone who is so balanced and grounded in our way of life. Well, not necessarily about everything else other than the spirituality, but certainly spirituality. Sorry, I missed that. Yes,
right.
Richard makes comments. You can't hear him. So sorry. Richard has just said we need to do a show with Paul Cizelle, about aliens, and he can talk to us. That would be so cool.
Yeah, I'd love to.
How do you feel about
Because I say, everyone at home, comment, tell us if you want it. We'll do it.
island. Well, I live on Hayling Island actually, and we don't have any light bleed. And I'm literally the sea is just literally 60 footsteps from my door, just there. And at night time, you go out and you look up at the stars, and it's an amazing. You actually see the Milky Way. And then sometimes that you could tell what's a plane, you could tell what's a satellite going over.
Mars.
And but then there's sometimes you look up and you see something that you just cannot explain, that doesn't move like a plane, it's not moving like a satellite, and you just wonder what that could be, as it kind of suddenly darts off in a completely different direction to the direction that it was moving in, and then it's gone, kind of thing. So yeah.
Ooh, I'm getting chills. I'm getting chills. Wonderful.
Yes.
And what we're going to do now, we're going to have a little break, aren't we? Just a little ad break. Yes. And then Nick, we're going to do some readings after, aren't we?
Let's do some readings. Yes, absolutely. Brilliant. Again, thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
For a wonderful afternoon. And sir, please roll them credits.
Are you planning a paid spiritual event, or looking for something to do this weekend? Then visit myspiritualevents.com. You can browse the listing, view the event details, watch a YouTube clip, look at a mini gallery, select dates and times, pay for tickets using PayPal or your debit card. Organizers can register for free and start selling tickets within minutes, be it for their online or in-person spiritual event. As an organizer, you will have access to your own admin dashboard, which will display information such as your income and your bookings, all in a simple and user-friendly display. It's free to use. Join and upgrade to an organizer. Come and visit us at myspiritualevents.com.
My Spirit Life is a free online interactive magazine for those who have an interest in improving their spiritual lives. Authors can upload images, videos, and audio clips to their own articles. The public can place comments, rate the article, and follow the author. All articles are vetted before being published. For more information and to place your own article, please visit myspiritlife.co.uk. Join Matt and Kirsty tonight from 8 p.m. The show consists of answering your spiritual questions and offering free mediumship and oracle card readings. On Tuesday afternoon from 1 p.m., Wendy Lindsay offers free spiritual readings and guidance using her crystal ball. Join Jane Morton, the psychic counselor, tomorrow night from 8 p.m. for advice, guidance, and readings.
Definitely do a show about that.
Definitely.
Hello.
Hello. We are back. Surprise! No, more for us than it was for you.
Yes.
Guys, keep sharing and liking, and don't forget to join Matt and Dawn tonight at 8 o'clock. They will be live here on SPtv.
I think that might be Matt and Kirsty.
Sorry, yes. See, you are hypnotising me. I do apologise for marrying you. Matt and Kirsty Grogan tonight at 8 p.m. And of course, if you are interested, do have a look at our spiritual events website. That is very well publicised in our commercial break there, where you can tell that we were discussing aliens as we come back in there, which is why I decided to marry Dawn off to someone, you know, completely randomly.
I was just an alien abducted me and just put me into some marriage somewhere. I don't know what was going on there.
Isn't that how it works anyway? You know. So
what is it they say? It's the claw, the claw.
You know, the one that always tends to let you drop right at the last minute,
it's right
on the wall and not get ready. So, but there we are. This is life. We all make mistakes.
What's this from Keith Bernard Abbott? Is it Superman?
Yes. Is it?
Yes,
it's super. You know, is
it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it Superman?
There's a dance about that. It's a very musical episode today. Very music. Lots of songs being popped up, from the Birds and the Bees to the Superman. Just so long as we don't have to do the okey dokey, because my hips are killing me today.
And thank you to everyone who's liked and shared. Really appreciate
absolutely,
it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So,
okay,
messages.
right. I'm getting a bit hot. I've got all these little lights on around me. None of them are actually doing any good, but to keep anything.
Oh no. It's a subtle shading.
Oh,
it's what do they call it? Mood lighting.
Mood lighting.
Mm-hmm. Mood lighting.
Hello from called Emma Adams. Emma Adams.
So the first person coming through was wearing false teeth.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you find? Excuse me. Do you find that though, when you have someone come through who had false teeth, you really can't talk properly?
Yeah. The same if the person's had any other kind of condition, it will affect me. Even my eyesight, it will start to affect my eyesight.
Yeah.
All different things like that. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Right.
So, anyone picking anyone's name that's flying past there who's shared and liked? Picking your fancy, my dear.
Let's start. Melanie Whelans. One more person back, please.
Yeah.
Helen. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Can I just have the names one last time, please?
It's like being on one of those
getting
quiz shows.
Right. Okay. Right. It could be Helen. What are you feeling, Nick?
I felt Helen too, to be fair. Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful. Helen, are you happy to work with us, my darling?
Are you out there? Are you with us? Are you still here?
You're giving us a beautiful butterflies of transformation.
Absolutely. And of course, while we're getting a response from Helen, please be reminded, share, like and subscribe. Keep commenting lovely things like butterflies, and we may be drawn to
hearts.
We like hearts too.
Yes, hearts my favourite. Okay. Lovely.
That was
lovely.
She is here.
Wonderful, Helen. Okay. Oh, okay. I don't know. Do you want me to start, or are you starting, Nick?
Yeah, you go for it, my love. If you've got something, you go for it. I'm just building up. Linking.
Okay. At the very beginning of the show, I had with me a lady. And she was showing me that she wasn't showing me. She was sharing with me that she had. It was almost like she'd been. It felt like I'd been hit on the side of the head, but I'm not. I don't want to say it was that I'd been hit. It's more like I'd had some damage here, okay, to this side of my face. All right, and it comes on like a diagonal, so it's covering the head, the jaw, all down here. Part of the, the sort of a dragging down hip, like it's like I'd been hit. That's what it feels like. So it was it happened quickly. Okay. Because I wrote, I said to her, would you be welcome to work with me? And she's put, thank you, yes please, bless you, Helen. Okay, so it was like some kind of, whether it was a stroke or whatever it was, it happened quickly. Okay. And I know that this lady, she has a beautiful feel about her. So she was a very open, warm lady, and she loved to walk in nature. The reason I'm saying that is because I can see her walking away from me, like she's passed into the spiritual realms, and she's walking into a forest that's very deeply black lit. It's got a beautiful light in it from within it. So I know that she walked with peace in her heart. I feel that she didn't. So that to me means that she didn't have any misgivings about going to the world of spirit. She had no problem with doing so. It didn't come as even though a good friend, family friend, stroke tumor. Thank you. Even though she had to pass, and this happened this was a quick happening, she was comfortable to go to the world of spirit. Okay. Okay. And anything from you, Nick, at the moment?
Yeah. As you were getting the that sensation, I felt a small twinge up here, but the most of what I felt was actually it was as though it was continued, because as you started describing,
that's right.
I'd already gone
down
down
the arm as well.
Because it had gone down, and I felt that pulsating of blood pumping through my neck and down into my chest, and you know, when I was saying earlier about the tuneful, I knew what was going to happen, because I get songs from people, and I'm sure this would have some form of connection, because as you started speaking, she was singing, and then you talked about strolling through the forest, and I had still been getting tiptoe through the tulips. So I don't know if there's some connection with the tulips as a memory link. Something she would have liked. Usually it's growing somewhere near. Could have even been Dutch, but that's very rare. You know, but it has happened. But this pounding of chest was actually a real excitement as well.
I said I was like a daughter to her. Bless.
Yeah. Bless her. And it is this excitement to be able to just, as Paul said, reach through. And I am very much, I'm feeling something in my wrist. I feel it separate. So I feel that there is, would you know of someone close to you, or you perhaps would have something of hers that was worn around the wrist? Because I can feel this. It's almost like
she loved tulips and grew them.
Whoa! The music, let music be the path of love. So yeah, and there's something about the size being wrong. So either it was too high for her, or it was too high for you. But there is that. But I'm also feeling really, really dry in the back of my throat. And she just looks up at me and smiles and said, "Tell her thank you." So you in that and prevented with that, because she's showing me that symptom and then looking up at your picture and going, and she's such this cutest, widest, regal smile. There was a grace about her that was paralleled, apparently. So that's where I'm up to so far. So thank you for the feedback, Helen, and I'll continue to look for something else.
Beautiful. She's telling me that you were a great comfort to her. So and as I'm saying that, she's showing me that she keeps showing me her arm, and it's like whether you could see the bone, or whether it was really like drawn there, you know, sort of skinny drawn there or something. But she keeps showing me the arms being very skinny. I'm aware of the bone. And there must have been some kind of like you're saying, the bracelet, but I can see like some hospital type bracelet as well. Okay. And you're getting this, Nick. And also I can see there welled up, there was bruising on the arm where something was, where there was blood, some kind of injection in the arm. Okay, as well. And this is why she's showing, thank you. That's why she's showing me the arms. Okay. Let us know if you understand that, Helen.
And whilst
not certain if I would always help her in her home. Yeah.
Now because as soon as you said the hospital wristband, it was like, that's why it was so tight, you know. So
yeah.
Interestingly enough, her personality for me is now starting to shine through, because she had this wondrous sense of humour. Yeah, she could get away with saying things that other people can't. Sometimes when I sit here, I've got obviously a keyboard drawer type desk thing on my desk that I work on here, and sometimes I find myself placing my hands either side, and I sat there and I started linking in with my hands on, and she just looked down at me. She said, "Are you expecting time for a seance?" So have this kind of
playful. I can say
playful,
Where I like,
and she would joke. She would be quite happy to joke about this way of life, but without being offensive. And that was one of her charms, that she could make a joke that was so obviously in love and good intent and humour, without, you know, everybody taking offence, and the post and the gate with it, you know, because there are, and that's the reason I'm ranting about that, is because she couldn't tolerate people who just were so OTT.
Yeah.
With that, you know, if they want to take, yeah, as soon as I said about, you know, taking offence, she said yes, and they could take the post and the gate as well.
I've never heard that before. I like that.
So she's such a wonderful, uplifting spirit.
She showed. I totally agree with you. Helen's put, not sure. She always in and out of hospital. Bless her soul. Yeah. But she shows me her. I don't know if this is something she did in life, but she's showing me her dancing. She's kicking up her legs in the air. She's just a real. I just love her. She's got a great energy. And she was quite. She was if she was to paint, she showed me a paintbrush. So she was a very creative, very quite. I don't know if I was always able to be flamboyant, but I had this personality about me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get it. You know, it's the phrase I got, which I think really ties in with what you was trying to say just then, and the dancing and everything. She was traditionally untraditional.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Her name was Sheila, and she was
very intuitive,
very funny. Oh, bless her. She's really great, and she's one of these ones that come through. It's so easy to work with. It's like an old friend coming home, and you know, that's what she wants to expel to you, as far as I can feel. Helen, she did just mention the name Linda as well, so I don't know whether there's a connection with the name Linda. I still believe here. On the earth plane, but she's very much aware of you, thinking of her often, and is quite often around tapping, because I want to keep tapping. So it's either you hear this tapping and that's her, or you become very impatient at the moment, because that's the only two reasons I would ever get tapping. So if there is any impatience, she's here to soothe it. But if you're hearing it, it's just her acknowledgement of presence. Yeah.
And be aware of you may be aware already of drawers. There is a drawer, a thin drawer that you keep papers in, like important paperwork in. And there's this one particular drawer that she wants you to be aware of. Either the paper's sticking out, or there's some paper you need to look at in there. Okay, be aware of that. And she's talking about a radiogram. Okay. And I want to come back to the painting. You haven't mentioned that she paints, but she's showing me now. She says her word was still life. She said still life. So I have to give you exactly what she gave me. Still life. You'd always laugh and smile, but also sounds like my nan with dancing. Hannah Queenie. Ah, yes, Linda, her niece. Okay.
Thank you.
Bless you. Wonderful. Okie dokie.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's give you a little message. Let me know about the artwork. That's interesting, because she's that's come across quite strongly to me. Perhaps it's you that does the art. Okay. Right. Okay, yes, Draw, I'll have a look. Okay, thank you very much. Good, lovely. Okay. She's talking to me now about you looking at the finer details. Okay. And whether this is about something in the drawer, but she's talking about the finer details. Okay. And this is in life as well. She wants you looking more, stopping, and what I would call stop and smell the roses. You know, she wants you to pay more attention to enjoying and being aware of the finer things in life, the little details. Okay. And she gives you a looking glass as well, like she's actually calling it a looking glass. That's not my word. Like a handheld mirror, I suppose, something like that. And she gives you that. So that might be a memory, something that belongs to her. Okay. Anything else, Nick, before we pass? Oh, sorry.
Okay. Actually, I've always been a great believer that when we speak, everything is spirit, and I know that there's been some fear and concern around the family at this time, but she's just standing there and she's folding her arms and she's saying, "Stop worrying." And it's like, I'm the gatekeeper, no one's coming past me, stop whittling, stop worrying, get on with living. And for her, life was so important, and for everyone else to live their life is so important.
Enjoying the finer details, enjoying
absolutely. And the great tapestry that is life. So do, whoever it is with the pain in the head that's worrying, get their eyes checked.
Ooh, I have pain in my head. Right along there. Yeah.
So stop worrying. Get your eyes tested.
Oh, that's tension headache. That is.
So yeah. So I hope that helps and alleviates that fear factor that we so often have. In exactly the same way as, interestingly enough, that superstitions begin. It's something happens, so when something is similar, it reminds us and builds up fear. She wants none of it. Stop it. Live and love and laugh and have a dance.
Although she said that she was quite aware of the afterlife, actually.
Yeah, I would say so.
She was quite a sensitive lady. She had knowledge of it. Okay. I don't know if it's Helen still there. Oh, sorry. There's a lot going on at the moment with me, and I could lose my home. Oh, so paperwork is paramount at the moment. I've been overwhelmed. Oh, bless your soul. Oh gosh, this is, so that's the message she's trying to give you, to check out your paperwork, go through the, like I said, the finer details. Okay, but she wants you to be, like Nick is saying, she's the gatekeeper. So don't worry, as Nick was saying, don't worry, or should I say, as your nan, as she's saying to you, and try and find time amongst all that distress. Try and find some time to have a little bit of peace and enjoy. I know it can be a fraction of time, 10, 15 minutes, but just some time within all that madness and worry. Because what she's showing me a kettle. Oh, okay. No, you're not showing me a kettle. She's showing me the teapot, big brown teapot. Okay, so that it's a good, she says it's a good, strong brown teapot. Okay.
And actually, I have to say, just very briefly, she's got that sense. She's wanting to bring back the humour and everything, because she just looked at me and laughed and said, "No, I'm not talking about you." I don't know what she means at all. The fact that I'm big, my surname's Brown, and I've been described in my life as a teapot, but it's that humour, and there's no malice at all. Again, she's such a wonderful soul, a wonderful support, and she will help with anything she possibly can, as she always would have done, and in return for what you did for you. So God bless you from me.
Bless you, Helen. Bless you. Good luck with everything.
Yes.
Right. We've just been made aware, for everybody, thank you, bless you, Helen, that it is the Queen's funeral next week. So we are actually going to cancel brunch in respect of that for next week. Okay. And Nick's going to be in Iceland anyway.
Yes, so I shall join you in spirit. I'm sure we will find a way of watching it with the power of the internet and everything. Might have guessed by my attitudes and comments over the past few days, I am somewhat of a royalist.
Yeah.
Not undyingly, without question. I question everything in my whole life. But, 70 years. She was working 2 days before she passed, and she was such a passionate and strong-willed and determined lady.
Absolutely.
And
let's not forget, she was someone's mum. She was someone's grandma.
Yes, absolutely.
Just our queen.
And it's interesting, because one of the things, and I think this is really quite important, that we mediums need to share people will say, well, she had a good life, 96 great innings. That may be so, but there is a counter to that. Her son has known her and nothing but her in his life for the 70 odd years that he has been alive.
Yeah.
And everything was so public.
Yeah.
Before social media, where we know people talk about yourselves and each other and all over the place publicly. Yeah. That's been her life for 70. Yeah, that's been her life for 70 years. But he's lost someone who he's known for his whole life of 70 odd years, and so recently as well, his dad as well.
Yeah.
So when you lose someone, you look to the other one for that direction. And then neither there. I do see much.
And he's now thrown into the limelight.
Yeah, no rest.
To be our king without any time to grieve. We would have time to grieve, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
We'd have, he doesn't have that opportunity to grieve.
And I know it's on a much smaller scale, but I performed my father's funeral.
Oh, wonderful.
And whilst the preparation for all of that and the doing of that was a very steadying force in my life and a reason to just keep focused, I did not start grieving until well after.
Yeah.
And so, we must, as always, remember that every person is unique and responds differently in many different ways. Absolutely. But he's lost both his parents so close together, and he's known them for so long. Time is a great healer, but time also is a great uniter. And to have only known them in their lives for so long, it means that the passing is going to be harder.
So much greater.
And so much greater, because there is no comfort at all in that she lived such a long and full life, because I still want my mum.
Exactly.
So when people make
this is the whole
comments
I still want my mum. You're absolutely right.
And when it frustrates me somewhat, because there's always various different reasons why the comments are being made, and everyone has the right to an opinion. But when someone, berates the man for being a bit snippy, what do you expect?
He's grieving.
He's every single breath, every single finger wave is being, critiqued and observed and recorded for posterity. And all he wants to do is probably curl up into a ball with a glass of something and have a couple of days to himself. He ain't going to get that.
No.
We do, for the most part. So yeah, time might be a great healer, but it's also
as a person, not just
absolutely. Yes, exactly. And I have to admit, the humanizing of the poems that have been shared, the pictures of her
smiling and the funny outtakes and little things.
And the little drawings of her with Paddington and the corgi trailing in the distance, and even the one of her sitting next to Philip. It's all been so heartrending, and I think even though everyone's been told to stop doing this now for health and safety reasons, but there was a little packet with a with a marmalade sandwich in amongst the flowers with the words "for later."
Oh, stop! I didn't know.
But please don't put any more marmalade sandwiches out, because it's not safe and healthy. But it was such a wonderful.
We can send them with thought, and that was incredibly heartfelt. That's beautiful for later.
I mean, let's be honest. Not many people can say that they've had the same job for 70 years, kept working up until 96, has shared lunch with Paddington, and jumped out of a helicopter with James Bond.
It's not that bad, is it?
Unique. We are all unique, but our uniqueness isn't always so highly observed and critiqued. So we must remember that.
Tina Christine Lacey, she was amazing. She had her fair share of trouble with her children, yes, she did, and life just like any normal mum and grandma. They just can't show how they really feel. Absolutely, she must save face all the time. It's incredibly hard.
Absolutely.
So next week we will not be here.
No. So I will be back. It's God willing. If Alison is back to full health and you give me the boot, that'll be fair enough. But I will be back with you the week after I return from my trip. I will bring you pictures
Bring me pictures.
I will bring you pictures. I might even, if there is a function, a facility, Richard, if I can get a video of the lights, and if I can do a field report that we can upload as part of the show.
Amazing.
Oh, we're having words with the spirit from above. I will try. Yes, Richard has just made a really wonderful point. Because of obviously it's super fast light particles hitting the atmosphere, so it is a form of energy and magnetism. So I'm going to try and link in and meditate whilst under the northern lights if they happen.
That would be pretty spectacular, wouldn't it?
And I will record it and report my findings upon my return as a great spirit Richard in the ear. Roll VT kind of moment, if we can do that, and I'm quite happy to try that and see what happens, because that's a really good point. I hadn't even considered that. So yeah, thank you. If you're interested, I will try and link in under the northern lights,
and if there's a gift shop, bring me back something.
I will. I have to admit, I walked past a bottle of cherry liqueur in a certain branded shop the other day and thought it was so it may well have been collected for a certain date in the future when we cross paths physically. But there we go. So yes, what a wonderful idea. Yeah, I'll have to do that. I'll have to do that and see what happens.
Oh, we're just hearing from Richard that people are saying, because we've had some rain, but now it's kind of cleared the air, got a bit sunnier again, and people are starting to go out again, having a bit more fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
In
the gardens.
Hanging out in your garden.
Oh, barefoot in the garden. Oh yeah, and further tiptoeing through the
tulips.
Yeah, and the moist, wet grass blades that are actually growing back rather than straw-like now. We have a little bit of green springing, which is nice. Hopefully,
I'm looking forward to autumn, though. I'm really looking forward to it.
Autumn leaves upon the ground, turns the world all upside down, and that point is, something to look forward to.
Joanne said that she was. That was fun. I just went out in the garden barefoot. Felt lovely.
Lovely. There you go. Fabulous. So there we are. Fabulous. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being here again, my darling.
Oh yes, and of course we must remember that overcome the impact of childhood trauma with the lovely Jess who we saw last week.
Yeah, she was wonderful, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was stunningly wonderful. Such a gentle soul, and so uplifting to hear. Last week was all about sound because we had the Alchemy Healing Bowls the next day, so it was a great comparison. Not for Richard, because he took his earphone out at that point because of his dog.
He's a very sensitive soul.
But he's a very sensitive soul. But yes, if you're about on the 26th of September at 10 a.m, free webinar. With a lovely Jess. What a beautiful soul, and a wonderful thing to go and take.
We're definitely going to have her back though on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a private event, not to do with SPtv, so you'll have to go and register. But we're more than happy to promote a worthy thing, especially when it has a tie into a previous show.
Exactly.
And this is the thing. Don't forget, if you missed it, you can go back and watch it. But remember, in order to do that, it's a good idea to share, like, and subscribe to the
words right out of my mouth, because everything hits SPtv is absolutely free.
And it is free and fun on SPtv too. Thank you for having me, Dawn. Been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you so much, my darling. God bless you, and have an incredible time next week.
Will do. I will bring you pictures and videos, I promise.
You do that. God bless everyone. And thank you to everyone who's joined us. And thank you once again to Paul Cizelle.
Yes, indeed. And thank you to our voice in our ear, the discarnate one, Richard. And so thank you all. God bless you all. See you all very soon.
Yes.
And
remember,
OVT.
SPtv.